Sorry. Thank you. And I'm excited that you're running. Last year, I spent a lot of time recruiting people to run for office, but I've especially spent time recruiting women, teachers, and parents to run for office. I did, in fact, a whole tour with NYSA trying to get more women parents and teachers to run to raise up these voices. Okay. So, one, great that you're running. For those of you who haven't followed education policy, it was a little bit like the Constitution pipeline. It was supposed to happen in one way, and then a lot of people's voices got raised up. A handful of hedge fund managers have spent millions of dollars in New York State to push for more privatization of education. And then nationally, there have been millions of dollars spent pushing Common Core and high-stakes testing. And, like most people, it sounds good at first. We all like high standards. It's just that in practice, this has not worked. In practice, these tests take away from teaching. Some of you who've been in schools know this, but others might be surprised to know that for these Common Core tests, so say Jimmy, what's your name? Henry. Henry's my teacher, and I'm the student, and I take the test. Henry can't see what I wrote, so if I got it wrong, he can't tell me what I got wrong and work on it the next day. These tests aren't designed to actually help teachers teach children. So they're actually taking it away from classroom time. You're a great teacher. I think that's something people don't know enough, is that these are not like the tests they remember, where they're like, hey, I was tough. I remember taking tests. They're not actually tests that are the next day, the student got 2 plus 18 wrong, now I'm going to teach her how to get better. Instead, the tests are whisked away, and they're not actually used for teaching. When you see parents and teachers piping mad about this, they're not wrong. They also really take away from classroom time, and also from a teacher's self-respect. And that's important, because these teachers are spending all day with our future. So if a teacher is in the classroom feeling like she's treated like a suspect instead of like a professional, because her salary is going to be decided by how well the kids do on tests that she's not allowed to see, that's an energy in the classroom. It just doesn't work for real learning. And so more teachers are dropping out. The systemic effects of high-stakes testing are quite real. I think a lot of it is truth-telling about what's happening, storytelling about what's happening. And it has already changed policy. So on the state level, Governor Cuomo and others have changed their position, their public position on high-stakes testing and Common Core. And state education policy has softened, not as far as it should. On the federal level, the ESSA, the new federal law governing testing, no longer requires states to bring those high-stakes tests. It allows them, but doesn't require it. That's a big deal. Do you guys see why that's a big deal? Because 2 years ago, if you went to your state senator and said, I don't like this, he or she would or could say, look, I get it, but we need the federal funding. That's no longer true. So parents and teachers' leverage is so much greater now than it was 2 years ago because of the opt-out movement. I think we're going in the right direction on that. But again, just like banning fracking is enough, we need to build renewables. Banning high-stakes testing isn't enough. We need to actually invest in arts, sports, music, social work, teacher centers, mentoring programs, the things that actually lead to a successful education. And recess.
So we have to go back.
I really like recess.
Do we have to go back 50 years?
There's a lot of wisdom. I mean, the American and the New York public education system is, I believe, the infrastructure of democracy. It's where we build our future selves. It's not just about taking math for a future job. It's taking math so when I'm in Congress, you can come and say, wait a second, you got your numbers wrong. It's our future citizenry. And I think there's extraordinary traditions to call on, but we also have to make sure that there's equal funding. So, yes?
I have a couple of comments, if I could, with a question at the end. We, here locally on that single payer thing, something that people don't think about that often in the discussion. Here in our town, we've had a hospital since 1939.
Yeah.
And when I first moved here 45 years ago, the hospital was almost like the public school. If you're here, you go to that hospital. So, you got cancer, your cancer surgery's in that hospital. We've spent a lot of time in this country over the last 30 or 40 years turning our hospitals into competitive businesses. And if those competitive businesses are confronted with, I was on the hospital board a number of years, with one payer, one paying customer, then that paying customer completely controls that business and can decide what's there and what's there. So I think we ought to be careful about that. Secondly, just on your testing thing, a couple of years ago, I was asked, end of the school year, I asked a girl behind the counter, you get tests here at the end of the year? And she said, only the ones that if we do poorly, the teachers get in trouble. So the kids have figured it out. And my question is, Delaware County's population now, when the country's like, what, 340 million something, is 45,000. When the country was 150 million, it was 45,000.
Yeah.
It seems like we're staying steady, and we've been there since about 1860. But every place else is growing, so clearly we're losing population.
Yes.
And everybody here knows that at the end of any given year, you hear about 1 or 2 or 3 families have moved to Tennessee. And we have a little quaint custom here called a Catskill Mountain career, which is 3 jobs. What might a representative in Congress be able to do on the economic development side of a rural set of small villages and hamlets like we have here that just don't have any jobs?
Yeah. So, thank you for your comments. Just to, one other sort of comment in response to your comment, because it's a conversation. The other area where we're seeing really high profits is hospitals. And what you see is if there's, now sometimes there's a reason for a hospital merger that's a very good reason. But with those mergers, the prices go up. Because the hospital then can say, hey, you want that service? We're setting the price. So there's a real pricing problem. It's the monopoly problem. If there's one service in the area, it's a problem. I have on medical, I have a real soft, not soft spot, but I have a real passion for dental care and making sure there's adequate dental care. It is so essential, so worthwhile in preventative effects. And I really support dental clinics and other experiments like that to provide basic preventative care that's really, really needed. So, economic development. Number 1, as I said before, but I will say it again and I will keep saying it again, and the reason I will keep fighting it is I was out there fighting against the Comcast-Time Warner merger. I was out there fighting for net neutrality. I have been out there fighting for this vision of universal neutral broadband for a while. Is that without broadband, it's going to be very hard. It's really essential. So broadband and cell service are absolutely essential. Now we can talk about the big vision, but in the short term, in Congress, one of the things you can do just as a basic service level is help negotiate contracts so that you don't have every different town and village on its own negotiating tough contracts where they don't get a good deal, right? This is, you can just help with those negotiations, help connect different leaders to help with those negotiations. In Kingston, I already connected the mayor of Kingston to some people that I know from the tech sector, because I've done a lot of work in the tech sector, on, are you going to be building rural fiber? How? Where? Let's be part of that experiment. There's some experimental areas, and I would be pushing for those experiments to be happening right here. Second, ag. Small ag is fantastic, important, and I would support it. My heart is in the farmer in the middle, that mid-scale ag that is, as one farmer told me this morning, the old saying was the farmer dollar turns over 7 times before it leaves the community. The mid-scale ag, money stays here. right now subsidies all to big ag. It's upside down. It's not a fair shake if you're a dairy farmer here. You're competing against big ag who get more federal dollars. So I will be fighting against unfair subsidies and for a farm bill that supports the farmer of the middle and the agriculture of the middle, because that is what this region can really thrive with. And we have, of course, the market of New York City, which is absolutely essential, but we have the markets of our own schools. We have the markets of our own institutions, our hospitals. Helping those connections are critical. You know, if you're for a lot of school contracts, you have to, just to give you an example for imagining your dairy farmer friends, to get a school contract, besides milk, you need to provide orange juice. Now, I don't know any dairy farmers around here who grow oranges. So that helps big ag, that doesn't help the farmer in the middle. There's all these little areas. Now these little areas aren't put in by accident. These aren't just, oh, we messed up. We forgot about the farmer in the middle. No, it's because big ag is spending its money lobbying for subsidies for big ag. That is absolutely essential to this area. I'm really excited about 28 tourism and the new scenic designation. I'm trying to get my campaign manager to give me a week off so I can bike it. Tourism is absolutely critical to this area, and agro-tourism as well. I mean, there's a lot of other different possibilities, but there's also a growing arts community. And I really, I don't think of arts as a luxury. I don't think of it as an arts luxury in education, and I don't think it's a luxury in a community. And so that part of growing an economy is endorsing and supporting artistic endeavors as well. Can I just say one broad thing? just one thing. Right? What is that, like MacGyver? No, it's not MacGyver. It's you know, the guy who like Columbo. Just one more thing. When I imagine this area 20 years from now, when we have busted up these companies, changed the way that we fund campaigns, it isn't a one-size-fits-all community. It's a whole blend of different small businesses, medium-sized farm, tourism, innovation, all of those together. And I actually think that's what a healthy economy looks like. Yeah.
We have in this country 118 million households. About 27% of those households are on some level food insecure.
Yeah.
We see it a lot on a local level. This is something very personal for me. These folks are, we were talking before about the powerless. These are completely powerless. These are folks who, they're not frustrated, they're numb. And as a representative in Washington, in a Republican-controlled House, what happens here is I will get people come into the pantry the third week of the month. First couple of weeks are kind of quiet. Third week of the month, they really come in because their food stamps are run out. When I first started, that was the last week of the month. And what's happening is that their food stamps are often to be cut back. And these are working poor folks. I mean, these folks who work in supermarkets who check out food that they can't buy themselves. And what can you do as a Democrat in a Republican House that constantly cuts back? Because these are people who don't contribute. These are people who sometimes can't even vote. So they're purposely aimed at as we can hit them because they're powerless. What can you do?
One is I can vote the right way on the program supporting absolutely critical humane programs to support food stamps. A second thing, yes, and your point is exactly not exactly right. I'm determined to have a Democratic-controlled Congress, but I'm not counting on and not planning on it. The second thing is this is what I really believe. I want to meet with you and have you tell me whose voice can I take to Washington? Actually, to Washington. Who wants to go? Because if we don't make this real and concrete for people in Washington who are just living outside reality, we're gonna keep having the same kind of programs, because if it's out of sight, out of mind, they're just, as you say, okay, they're not in my voting model. It's a huge problem. And when I talk about raising up people's voices, I mean really raising up people's voices who are truly shut out, who are working and sleeping in the Walmart parking lot because they can't afford a place to live. Working, but getting food stamps because the work isn't paying enough. And that if we don't face directly this incredible crisis of daily lived poverty, we're lying to ourselves about our society. But thank you for your work. Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Good.
I'm really on royal opposition, so I have to be honest, I'm a Republican.
That's great.
Okay. I agree with you on three things. With the trade, with NAFTA, China, and Common Core. We kind of got that together.
Yeah.
But the other ones I got a question on. We talk about no dependency on other countries.
Yeah.
Energy has always been our dependency on other countries. We've been in the Middle East, and needless to say, we got all these wars, it was about oil, okay? Bush said it, it's all about oil. We did fracking, easy, and we have made this country energy independent, 12 million barrels a day, whatever, I'm gonna get the statistics. I think we need to have another look at reasonable fracking, because we want to stay independent. That's just a thought, you know, that before. Bill Clinton said, it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah.
Okay. He respected the economy. You, sitting back here, you make me nervous. You're like, you want to bust everything out. You'll tell you, again, Teddy Roosevelt, you want to bust all the monopolies.
Yeah.
If business doesn't make a profit, why would they go into business? Why would somebody, if I'm not making money, whether it's General Motors or the gas station down the corner, why would I want to do it?
Great.
Okay, so I think we need to really look carefully at the economy, because the economy here is what saves us. If Wall Street has a hiccup, and everybody complains about Wall Street, evil Wall Street people, they come up here, they build these, I don't say crazy houses, these fancy houses, spend their money, and that's what a lot of our economy is. Okay, so I'm a little cautious about beating somebody up. You know, it's you know, especially, you know, now, for instance, the pension funds are all dependent, most of them are dependent on the economy. You know, and I get my teachers' pension funds just like some of us here, and I read, and I'm amazed how well they invest the money. But it's the economy, okay? It's again, it always goes back to the economy, and I'm a little, you know, you know, you make me nervous when you say economy, because I want to nurture the economy. The economy is going to bring us up. Now, you talked about the offshore people with the tax money. It's 39% tax you want. They've already been taxed. They made the money overseas. They didn't sneak it out overnight. They want to bring it back. Why don't we get together and all say, let's give them, all right, give me 10%, give me 15%, and invest it in America. Build a building, and they want to do that. Spur the economy. We're the highest paid corporate tax in the world. The communist Chinese are more capitalistic than we are. We have an economy that is so I want to say overregulated. I want to see sensible regulation. I don't want unsensible regulation from the 40s we got a super funds out of it, okay? You know what I mean by super funds? Okay. So we need sensible regulation, whether you're Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter. Yeah, and basically, you know, like a coal, you know, fracking, you may be against it. One of the reasons we have reduced our pollution, we're number 2 in polluting the world, not number 1, is because we're using natural gas and we've gone away from coal.
So true.
You know, we have
It's
to,
actually-
there are
it
benefits
actually
to all
releases
this.
more
There are
greenhouse
benefits,
gases
so
than
before that's all I'm saying to you, you know, it's, but basically it's, the trade, I make a suggestion to you. Let's do something with the Chinese.
Yeah,
Okay, if they bring in a shoe that is made in a Chinese factory and doesn't meet the United States federal emission or safety standards, you pay the difference. So these people over there in China don't work under substandard conditions. They should be all over. If you care about the people, And President Obama goes, about, you know, all the countries getting together about reducing pollution, yet they have already said, we're not stopping. We're gonna use coal and we're gonna build coal. If you wanna do it in America, I find that, and that ties us up.
So I don't mean to, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's it, I don't, so like I said, 3 things I agree with you
Yeah.
on, the other ones I question.
Well, first of all, thank you, and thank you for coming. Like, this is the point, actually. I actually think, and you and I could probably have a much longer conversation that is respectful and serious about things that we disagree about, things that we agree about. And the areas I think where there's the most room for conversation are the areas where you and I really agree, we disagree on the means. So I think you and I both are looking at energy independence as absolutely critical. I see the future through the ways that I pointed out. You saw the future through a different way. But we can share a goal of energy independence as a serious goal. Something we're never going to agree on, and that's okay with me. We can still have dinner. We can still, you know, that's really important. And I actually think if we're going to bring this country back together, it has to be deeply respectful debate. So I'm going to, you raised a whole bunch of issues. I want to address one that I think is really important because I don't know that I can convince you, but I'll tell you how I think about it. Because I completely agree with you that having a thriving economy is our core job and my core job. I completely agree with you. Here's what I worry about. I worry about the incredible concentration leading to fragility, basically like we have too big to fail banks still. That's a problem. And I gotta tell you, it's a problem for the farmer of the middle when speculation leads commodities prices going up and down and you can't take that wild ride. So one of the things that I care a lot about is having a more stable, thriving economy and a less fragile economy. So you can't just knock it over because JP Morgan goes under. You can't knock it over because there's a problem with Comcast or Time Warner. I really believe in open markets, in competitive markets, in capitalism. What I think is that these monopolies are actually getting in the way. And they are not competitive. They're not competing. Because basically, if a big, you know, if you had an ice cream stand and you had access to the discount window the way JP Morgan does, you'd make $1 million pretty quickly. So they're not fairly competing. So I think this is a longer conversation, but I don't think this falls on left-right lines, the monopoly question. I don't think there's anything left or right about it. I think we have a real problem. So I am going to keep, and it's okay if you never vote for me. I am going to keep beating up on some companies that I think aren't participating in the market economy. I don't know that I blame them for it. I blame us for not having fair rules. The same way that you want fair rules in any market, you should have fair rules that allow for real competition. But thank you for your comments. Thank you for coming. Yeah.
I guess I have 3. I was surprised.
You guys are not shy.
I was surprised to find out we're the 3rd top corporate tax. We're the 3rd highest corporate tax country.
I'm sorry, I-
39.1.
39.1, we're
Yeah.
we're the
Number
highest.
1 is United Arab Emirates, and Chad is number 2. The other thing is, Teddy Roosevelt's gonna come in here, and he's not happy. You guys gotta stop quoting him. He did not believe all trusts were bad. He believed there were good trusts, and he believed there were bad trusts. He did not want to break up all monopolies.
You're right.
And Taft broke up more
I
monopolies.
know, I'm more of a Taft. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so you gotta keep saying that, because Teddy gets such good press, and this could be
So
all.
my, so what's your name?
Cassie.
Cassie, okay. So this is so funny, because I actually, Kim, have I not said this privately?
Yeah.
I'm like, Teddy Roosevelt gets all the credit, but it's really FDR and Taft.
Yeah, poor Taft.
Yeah.
They couldn't communicate.
But you'll forgive me if I use shorthands.
Yeah.
Because, you know, besides believing in education, one of the things I really care about is history. I wrote a whole book about the Constitutional Convention and what happened in that Constitutional Convention and how much the people at the Constitutional Convention were worried about corruption. That was the big fear. They didn't want to become like the corrupt England or the corrupt France. There's so much wisdom in our history, which isn't to say anybody was ever perfect. They never were.
Well, I
But
think
there's so
that-
much wisdom, and I think even introducing these ideas from our history, so people don't feel like the horse has left the barn, the train has left the station, there's nothing we can do. Let's become numb. I don't want people to be numb, and one of the things that history does is it wakes you up to other possibilities. But you're right that it was more time.
Well, the other
Okay,
thing
sorry.
is, when it comes to education, New York
Yeah.
State, because, my husband and I, between us, have like 65 years of teaching.
Okay. I thought you were about to say
And so-
between you had 65 children.
No, God only gave us one, and she got a horrible education, so, you know, what do we do? But anyway, New York State, though, if you look at, I'm a history teacher, or
Oh,
what?
great.
So if you look at K through 12, US history or social studies in New York State, we have a great program. And, you know, in kindergarten, you're learning economics.
Yeah.
What do you need? What do you want? I mean, it's great. But I think my husband and I were most frustrated is we tried. We weren't the best teachers in the world, we tried. But you're working alongside some teachers that aren't trying. And if they don't have a state test, you know what they think? I can teach what I want. And, you know, as a Regents teacher, I loved it because I wasn't self-employed. I had the state as my employer. I had a syllabus. I built a curriculum around it. I knew what my kids were supposed to know and the many things that I'm trying to get across. And then I had other teachers that had no state tests, and frankly, the administrators are not, I mean, the teachers are held so accountable, but administrators, no offense, John, are not held as accountable. And so the administrator in our school with the mentor program appointed the Spanish teacher next to me. I was mentoring her because her mentor teacher was the kindergarten teacher. Because the kindergarten teacher was friends with the superintendent, and she would get extra money for doing it. When there was
Kindergarten
no
corruption.
yeah, but there's no accountability for administrators. And, you know, if there's a teacher, I had an administrator, I was president of the union, I went in and I said, listen, you and I know this guy, let's call him John Smith, is a great guy, and he's trying so hard. He will never have classroom management. And he's never gonna make it. And if you give him tenure, you're going to frustrate the hell out of his life. But the administrator, oh, but he's such a nice guy, you know, I have to, and I go, great, okay, whatever, I'm just saying, and he got tenure, and this guy should not have been in the classroom. Now and then they say, well, tenure, teachers shouldn't have tenure. Well, that's not the issue. The issue is how that teacher get tenure.
Okay, so, there's, again, you raised a whole bunch of different issues in there, but I think I don't know how far apart we ultimately are, we might be though, which
Yeah.
is fair.
Yeah, we're right.
And I respect your position. But
I
what,
don't teach anymore.
okay.